For some reason, since 2012, people have given me money to help them pass interviews at some of the world's most competitive companies like PwC, Goldman Sachs, BAE Systems, and more. I don't really know why, initially because I had no experience working at these companies. What I did seem to have is an uncanny knack to be able to coach people to pass interviews at this company, irrespective of the role that they were applying to or the level of seniority that they were going for, from apprentice to senior manager. So here are the most common questions that I get asked in these one-to-one sessions if you can't afford to book me one-to-one or you just don't want to because you don't like my face. And that's cool. And if you want all of those answers in an ebook, you can find it down in the description below. It's completely free. How can you make sure you look good in your video interview? Okay, so here's like 30 things that you can do in a couple of minutes. So it's really simple and straightforward. So let's burn through this list. So looking good in a video interview comes down to 5 things: knowing yourself, setting the scene, checking your equipment, your internet connection, and creating a peaceful environment. In terms of knowing yourself, record yourself multiple times, answer questions and time how long you speak for, watch back your videos and self-assess, check your sound. Is it too quiet? Is it too loud? Do you have a crackly microphone? Check your volume, tonality, body language, and facial expression as you look back. Basically, do you look happy and excited to work for that company, or do you look bored? Full disclosure, sometimes when I watch myself back in my videos, I think, why do I look bored, or why do I look like I've just had a stroke? So it's really important to look back at yourself and how you appear on video. So this creates a checklist: good eye contact, looking at the camera, making sure your face can be clearly seen, wearing business dress, good video and audio quality. Something really simple like, is your camera focusing? Is it smudged? Is the audio actually coming from your laptop so it sounds tinny and far away? Are you speaking slowly and clearly? Can you be understood? Are you taking less than 3 minutes to answer a question? It's better if it's less than 2 minutes. Also, does it clearly look like you're reading a script? Can you clearly see your eyes moving left to right? Are you off center? Are you sounding robotic? This is not great. So in terms of setting the scene, you just want to make sure that your background is clutter-free, well lit, a tasteful decor, or just blank walls like this. In terms of checking your equipment, so make sure you're sitting at least 30 centimeters away from the camera. So that's basically an arm's length, right? So actually the camera is just behind my desk on a mounted tripod. But in terms of where my laptop is, I'm perfectly just about an arm's length away. Is your picture clear? If you're using a phone, make sure it's secured to a tripod. Personally, I wouldn't suggest using your phone. I think there's just way too many things that could go wrong. You could get a text, a WhatsApp, you could get a call. I think it's just easier to use a laptop. Even a tablet is probably connected to some sort of social media or people are able to contact you. If your sound quality is bad, just buy a cheap microphone, cost you less than a tenner, or get a headset. And also, can we clearly see your face? Is your lighting okay? Sometimes when I watch people back in their videos, you can sort of clearly see a shadow. Best thing to do is just sit directly under a light if you can. Just, you want to put your best foot forward and you just want to make sure you look as good as possible. In terms of your internet connection, so if you share a house or dorms, then you know your internet can be bad. So just record during the day. Mornings are best. Avoid evenings and weekends. Conduct a speed test on the day. So just Google internet speed test. Anything less than 10 megabytes a second. Download speed is going to compromise of your video. So just make sure you're doing it at the best time. I've had this loads of time where people have had problems with their internet connection. I was just like, dude, you should have just been a bit more organized. In terms of creating a peaceful environment, just make sure your phone's on silent, or even better on airplane mode, that everyone knows not to disturb you. Close your windows and keep background noise to a minimum. Other devices like fan, just showing some sort of awareness. The other thing just about having a peaceful environment is just when you're nervous and all of a sudden, you know, somebody just knocks on the door, creates a distraction, or your phone goes off, it just puts you out of state. And that can be really serious when it comes to an interview. So all of this is just about being prepared ahead of time. None of this stuff takes a particularly long time, but I'd say, you know, the day before your interview, going through this checklist is really pretty helpful. You're an introvert and the thought of being on a video, even a recorded video interview, fills you with dread. What can you do? Okay, so this is a really common thing that comes up. A lot of people are not great at interviews. Stuff like COVID social media screens, in my honest opinion, has created a generation of young people who are not really that great in terms of social skills and small talk and getting out and about. I mean, if you got locked away, then, you know, I wouldn't be particularly good at that. We just need to break this down and be as gentle as possible. First things first, number one, you're probably okay just talking to yourself. So trying to practice, for example, downloading our free Tell Me About Yourself worksheet, or just doing a personal introduction and talking to yourself. The second thing is talking in front of a mirror, or talking in a way that you can see and reflect upon your behavior. But again, it's still you by yourself. A lot of times what I've noticed is when people really lack in confidence, they're very sensitive to being judged. So just having that as the next step. Bearing in mind, I'm not defining a time period, but if you're watching this and you know that you're an introvert and you really struggle with interviews, then the sooner that you start this, the better, because sometimes it might take longer than others. The third step is recording yourself and watching yourself back, maybe doing a video call with a friend, just upping the stakes a little bit more. The fourth thing would be going to a meetup or going to online Zoom or something like that with people that you don't know and just sitting there. So just being amongst strangers, being used to the fact that your camera's on and that other people can see you. So now we're starting to leverage the fact that you're being observed. The fifth thing, if you can, just finding an opportunity where you can speak in front of strangers and then you feel them looking at you, you're finding that difficult. The sixth thing would be really trying to practice with somebody in real life or one-to-one on a video call, and then you're slowly chipping away at the things about an interview, which is self-consciousness, an element of self-centeredness in all honesty, and also demystifying the unknown, or, you know, getting over the fear of unknown, which is essentially going, that wasn't that bad really when I think about it. Now this is something that, you know, lots of people suffer from. It's not really just you, but it is, if you know that this is your problem, then, you know, I've spoken to people before and they said, well, you know, I'm introverted, I shouldn't have to do an interview. I mean, that's the way that the world works. So if you don't come to the world, then the world's probably not going to come to you. But now that you know and you've got the tools to be able to go through that, it will get better and better each day if you just chip away at it. What should you do the night before the interview? Okay, so when I'm helping people to prepare for interviews, I also like to get them into the mind of what they're going to be like the night before the interview and the day of the interview. The night before, you want to do as little as possible. You sort of want to imagine yourself like you're a mental athlete. So you want to be as well rested as possible. The best thing that you can do before an interview is just get a good night's sleep. A lot of people struggle with that, particularly if it's your first interview. So you want to set everything up in your favor, whether that be a long hot bath, being away from screens, being in front of a screen, whatever be your routine, trying not to do anything that's really going to affect your recovery, drinking probably being the top one. Just trying to do as little as possible. A lot of people like to work onto the wire, and feeling frazzled's not really going to help you on the day. So just thinking, look, I've done the best that I can, and now I just want to make sure I'm as well rested as possible. You also want to front load for your organization for the next day. If you're having to travel more than an hour to be at the interview site, I recommend staying somewhere near overnight. Costs notwithstanding, it just gets rid of the fat and the anxiety of you being able to get there, making sure your clothes are set out, making sure you've set out a decent breakfast, which is something that I'll talk about in the next question about what you should do on the day of. You just want to minimize decision fatigue on the day. Like, it's the biggest thing that's going to happen to you probably this year, particularly if it's a really big job or a big deal for you. So you want to control as many variables as possible before the day. What should you do the day of the interview? As little as humanly possible. Now, this is not always possible because we have lives and things that we need to do, but I'd say anything that is not absolutely necessary, then get rid of it. If you can, take the day off work. If you don't need to go to uni, don't go to uni. Don't have plans with friends. You just want to wake up and everything should be there in front of you. There's a couple of things. Try not to eat really heavily at least 3 hours before you have your interview. I'm not a scientist. All I'm saying is just treat it like you're going to run a marathon. So you want maximum cognitive ability. That means as much blood going to here as possible and not to your tummy. So you don't want to have something like a giant fry up, maybe some porridge or just, you know, some sort of carb carb, something that's really light, and avoid your phone, avoid the internet, social media, just nothing that's sort of eating away at your ability to make decisions. It can be really tough and really challenging. I, for example, like to avoid my phone as much as possible before midday. And even though a lot of times I really want to use my phone, it's just understanding that once I open the floodgates, it's game over. And just making sure you're ready and as fresh as possible for your interview. What are some useful tips that you can give during your interview? The biggest one is slow down. Most people make mistakes because they talk too quickly. That is a significant proportion of the advice that I give. Well, I'll listen to somebody and they don't even recognize that they're talking too quickly. But if you feel like you're falling over your words, you're gasping, a lot of people swallow because they're sort of getting that dry mouth. You find you're easily making mistakes. You're just moving too quickly and you need to slow down. Next, listen to the question. You will be surprised how many intelligent people I have done mock interview practices with, and I ask them a question which is going this way and they end up going this way. So just listening to the question and gives you that time to pause and respond. A lot of people mistakenly think that pausing means that you're failing or you're looking stupid. It doesn't at all. It's actually pretty wise. Next, speak your truth, not theirs. And this is easier said than done, but it's definitely something to think about. Now, a lot of times people will manufacture their answers to say what they believe their future employer wants to hear. Now, of course, it's good that you structure your answer around the job description, but you want to use examples that you feel comfortable about. You want to tell stories that you find exciting. You want to structure your answers around your truth and not the other person's truth, because you don't know who they are, or you could just be doing a video interview. Because remember, if you feel bored talking about it, that other person is going to feel even more bored listening to you. And lastly, just treat it all like it's practice. Whether this be your first interview, whether you've had time out, whether you've done a couple of interviews. I've seen people fail just because they put way too much expectations on themselves. And a really good little mental trick that I found works for people time and time again is say, just go there and treat it like it's practice. Like it's just something that you're just there to help you, to make you better at the thing that you are doing. And I just see people relax. A lot of times you're better than you think you are, you're just too tense. So by being more relaxed, you can flow, and a good way to flow is just to treat it like there are no expectations, it's just practice. What should you do when you're asked a question that you didn't expect? So this is probably people's biggest fear when it comes to interviews. There's a couple of things that we can do here. Firstly, this is why star stories are so useful, because we're not preparing for the questions and we have a bank of stories that we can use. So you're just trying to think about what's the most appropriate story that we can tell. If you don't have a star story, getting them to repeat the question will give you a couple of seconds to think. The other thing to do that is just pausing or asking them to repeat the question. Finally, never be afraid to just say, sorry, my mind's gone blank. Can we come back to that question? It's generally a much better look than just rambling, going off on a tangent and not answering the question. But this is a really good reason why I don't like preparing interview scripts, and I don't like preparing for hyper specific questions, because if you get questions you don't expect, people tend to freeze out. What's the best questions to ask an interviewer after they're finished? So you get to the end of the interview and the interviewer says, right, that's all. Have you got any questions for me? And most people ask questions like, how much will I get paid? When will I start? How did I do? What happens next? And look, some of this is just natural. One thing I would definitely say is probably, unless you've built rapport, you feel like you're having a good time with that interviewer, don't ask them how they did. It's super awkward. You're really putting them on the spot. Questions that I like to get the clients that I train to ask are ones that make people think. They're what I call pattern interrupts. So what happens is, if you said to somebody, what's the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you? Or what's the one thing that somebody said that keeps coming back to your mind time and time again over your life? Now, probably as I've asked those questions, you're thinking, I don't know. These are great questions because they kind of bring people out of their unconscious state. You may not have interviewed interviewed people I have, and it gets super boring. And I tend to find that I'm almost unconscious because I'm so used to doing it, but I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying. So here's 9 questions that you can use, which I find to be really useful in getting the interviewer to think and also remember you for asking a great question. How did you end up working here? What are you working on right now? What's the best piece of advice anyone has given you? What's the best advice for someone just starting working here? What's the most interesting project or client you've worked on? What's a common mistake you see new starters make here? What's something I can learn that would really help me on the job? Have you got any articles or books you read recently that you think would be interesting? If you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to yourself when you graduated, what would it be? What's an easy way to get interview feedback and see whether what I'm doing is right or not? Okay, so I have seen a number of complaints from people who say that they've asked people to give interview feedback from companies and nobody ever gets back to them. Here's a shocker. I don't know about you, but it's Wednesday and I can't really remember what I did on a Monday, let alone how the 10 people that I interviewed performed 3 weeks ago. The truth is that the onus is really on you to get feedback, not on people to give you feedback. Now, the easiest way is to practice with somebody else. Now, it could be with a professional, it could be with somebody that you know, it could just be recording yourself and watching yourself back, sending people a short video, just something where you are having the opportunity to review what you did. For me, the quickest and easiest way to do that is just to record yourself and watch yourself back. It's something that is so prevalent, particularly in sports, but people don't do it, maybe because they think it's a bit cringeworthy or they don't want to look about yourself. But the truth is that you're always going to have a distorted perception of who you are and what you can do until you have real evidence placed in front of you in the form of a video. So that can be super useful. And if the opportunity comes up to give feedback, great. But what I tend to find is feedback reports are always ruthlessly vague and not particularly helpful. How long should I wait to get a response to my interview before I chase up? I tend to say 7 days unless you've heard anything else. You can send a template which is in the ebook down in the description below. Basically, just don't badger people. One thing that I find really cringeworthy is people's sense of self-entitlement. They're like, well, people should get back to me and what about me and don't you know who I am? I'm like, dude, people have got jobs to do. You'll understand when you are working full-time, you've got interviews and all these people are trying to get your attention. So always when you're asking people, be polite, be respectful, and just really show them that you understand that they're busy. Should I write a thank you email after the interview? Personally, I don't think it's going to hurt. I've never gotten a thank you email and thought, oh my God, what a horrible person who sent me that. Also, I don't think it makes a lot of difference, if I'm being really honest with you. I've never heard anybody turn around and say, yeah, I gave them the job because they sent me a thank you email. I think it's just if it makes you feel better and you feel like it's a cathartic thing to do, then fine. I don't think it's going to move the needle. No more career talk BS. Download my free 30-page 2025 interview guide for tried and tested tactics to help you pass your next interview from a professional.